Want to meet histogram's cooler younger cousin? Well, stay tuned and I'll introduce you to the stem and leaf plot. Once again, welcome to the Intro to Stats 5-minute lecture series. In this series, we cover non-calculus-based college-level statistics. It's not, however, intended for folks with extensive mathematic backgrounds, but those that are kind of new to it. So if that's you, then you're in the right place. Let's hit that timer and get started. What do you say? All right, folks, this is an example of a stem and leaf plot. It's fairly simple to construct with smaller data sets most of the time. In this example, the tens place gets placed in the stem, and the ones place in the leaves. Notice there are two values for the stem row of 4, 45 and 48. This plot has a similar effect of helping the statistician visualize the makeup of the data. Imagine turning the graph 90 degrees counterclockwise, and you can see that it would have a similar feel as that of the histogram. I'm a firm believer in that one of the best ways to understand something is to see some good examples. I'm going to show you 5. The key to making a stem and leaf plot is to keep in mind our main goal, to be able to visualize the data. That is, the plot has to break up the data in a useful way for viewing. Again, it's similar to the histogram in that setting up the plot requires intervals. Let's start looking at some examples. In this first example, we have what I consider to be an easy data set to work with. However, one thing I would ask you to note is that the data has already been sorted. This one action of sorting will make your life so much easier. It's so helpful, I'm going to show you how to sort these already sorted numbers. So let's sort them from largest to smallest. Now back to smallest to largest. Right. Now let's start building the plot. I'm going to start with the tens place of 1. There's a 5 in the ones place and a 6 as well. Those go into the same row as the 1, but on their leaf side. Now for the 20s, then the 30s, and finally the 40s. And that's it, a simple stem and leaf plot. There's one last thing to mention that isn't always necessary, but certainly it will help in making the plot a bit more clear. And that is adding a key. In this example, our key would look like this. In this next example, we have decimal places to deal with. First, sort. Next, let's go ahead and create the key. Now, let's fill in the plot. In this third example, we have a partially tricky data set. All right, so let's sort this data and get to building. The first naive approach might be to make the stem 2 rows, 16 and 17. But if you remember what I said back in the beginning, our goal is to be able to visualize the data. And I'm sorry to say, if you pick 16 and 17, then you don't get something worthy of our analysis. What if we used one of the decimal places to help us? Like this. First the key. Now let's fill in the values. I hope you agree, that's much better. Example number 4. So this next example is rather confusing at first, and hopefully you don't run across it too often, but here it is. We're going to call this a split stem with a trim. I suppose we could call it the mullet of the stats world. Notice how we split out the 16 by the 0.6 and 0.7s, and then 0.8 and 0.9s. Then, when we put the values in the plot, we're going to trim off the hundredths place. And so there it is, a split stem with a trim, stem and leaf plot. In our final example, we have a back-to-back stem plot. So I should definitely preface this data set by telling you that the data is from a well-known hoax. These numbers are most likely not real, but I thought it was funny anyway, So I'm using it. It's a hoax, people. So here we have a data set of presidential IQs by party. Let's see how Republicans and Democrats match up. First, we'll take the data sets and put the Dems in one column and the Repubs in the other. Let's sort each column separately. Now, we'll decide the intervals. I think we'll just use the tens place and up as the stem and the ones place for the leaf. And so, this is what it'll look like. Again, I want to mention, if I didn't already, that this data is from a hoax article. Don't take it serious. But if it were true data, based on the stem and leaf plot that we've created, what might one be led to conclude? All right. So I think that about covers it. And now you know how to create a stem and leaf plot. And further, if you demonstrate this ability at dinner parties, you'll be the life of them. So get out there and start stem and leafing. Thanks for watching. Feel free to put any questions or comments in the comment section below. In the next video, let's look at box and whisker plots. There, did it, done. Out. Over and out.